Listen. Listen. Listen.
Good evening, everyone. This is High Point Mayor Jay Wagner, calling to order our special meeting of the High Point City Council Monday, February 21st, 4:30. For those listening online, council members. Good evening, everyone. This is High Point Mayor. Council members present at City Hall are council members Moore, Peters, Jefferson, Hudson, Williams, and I am present at City Hall. I anticipate everybody else except for Councilman Victor Jones, who will not be here tonight, will be coming along shortly. Have a couple of items for the special meeting. The first one is an update on the City of High Point's MWBE program. And for that, I will turn the meeting over to Eric Almeida.
Yes, sir. Just a second. Thank you, Mayor, Council. We bring this update back to you as requested. We've got some attempts at trying to compare a couple of different cities and their MWBE reporting. So let's just get started. Thank you, Mayor, Council. We bring this so good you want to hear it twice. So first, the MWBE update. We just wanted to give you a little bit of a refresher. This is part of the general statute that requires city to adopt an appropriate verifiable percentage goal for participation in minority businesses in the total value of work for building projects. So based on that and that city, that legislative demand, we do have a current participation goal of 10%, and that's due to not having a disparity study that backs up a different percentage goal. We do here in the city only track participation on construction projects. It does not include commodity or other purchases, which some of the more mature plans in other cities that have been doing this a little bit longer and have additional resources put toward this, they do track commodity or other purchases. This is really just a different view of what we've presented to council in the past that gives some comparisons by year since from 2015 to 2021 in the different categories. Again, this isn't total spend. This is only percentages on those very typically in a given year, not a large amount of construction projects. So on the MBE side, we go from, in 2016, a low of less than 1% to 2021, where it was close to 9.4%. Same with women-owned businesses, where it was at a high in 2020 of 11.7%. The disadvantaged the disadvantaged business enterprise has typically been pretty low, but you can see our totals there in 2019, 2020, and 2021. We've in total outperformed our goal of 10%. So when we look at this compared to these other cities, there's a couple of just caveats we want to throw out here at the beginning. Each city tracks statistics differently. What we've tried to do, and staff has tried to do, is normalize these benchmark cities so that we can try to compare apples to apples, but it's definitely not perfect. Like I said before, Winston-Salem and Greensboro, they've been doing this for a lot longer. They're tracking purchases, procurement card purchases, professional service purchases, goods in addition to construction, which we are not at this point. So this first one is the city of High Point. We tried to put, again, we're trying to normalize this between the other cities. So what you see here in that left column is in 2020, total minority spend was 1.15% of our construction contracts. In 2021, that was 9.39%. In that middle category there, non-minority female expenditures in 2020, it was 11.73%. In 2021, it was 6.47%. And then combined total in 2020 was 13%. And in 2021, it was 15.86%. Any questions there?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
How would a minority female be counted?
July? In total minority, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Good question. I do want to acknowledge the bench back here. Jelani Biggs has done a lot of work on this and really reached out to the other cities. So he was very important in this process. This one is, it's kind of hard. This is city of Greensboro. So we wanted to try to give you some consistency here, but we've added an element on this one, which shows the 6 years, 2012 to 2016 is in the blue. And this was the average spend utilization between these different categories for those years. And then it shows the 2019 and 2020. So it's kind of showing a difference that the disparity study listed as what historically had been spent with these different category of firms, and then versus after the disparity study. So you see from 2012 to 2016 for total minority, they averaged 3.38%, but in 2019 it was 13.3%. In 2020 it was 6.55%. Similar with the non-minority female, the study indicated they had historically spent a little bit over 8%, but in 2019 it was 14.1%. 2020 it was 6.55%. So in total, for the previous years, it was an 11.4%, but in 2019, the total amount was 27%, and in 2020 it was 15.56%. So they did overachieve from the disparity study from what they had in the past. So just a couple of notes. For the city of Greensboro, they acknowledge that the pandemic has certainly impacted some of their utilization data. So they've acknowledged that the data is not probably as clean as it could be. They are trying to shift their reporting from the calendar year to a fiscal year to match up with everything else that government does on a fiscal year basis. They stated they're not currently implementing all the recommendations from the disparity study, but they didn't really indicate what they're not. But if you've seen a disparity study, you know it's typically a 300 to 400 page document, and it's just jam-packed with all kinds of recommendations, so that's understandable. And they also noted that, well, I already said that. They noted that some of these reporting data were impacted by the pandemic. Next, we have a similar look to, like we did before with the city of Winston, but we don't have 2 years worth of data. We only have a combined fiscal year 2019-2020 data. So in blue, you see what it indicated that the spend was from 2013 to 2018 as a percentage. So total minority spend was 12.1%. And in 2020, it was 10.3%. For non-minority female, the disparity study showed that their spend was a total of 28.8 in 2013 to 2018, but it had fallen to 13.8 for 2020. And then total MWBE in those previous years was 35%. And then the total for 2020 was 24%. So this kind of shows you the difference in, 1 year can make a big difference. And if you have multiple big projects that you're tracking, like we have in the past couple of years with the great work Sam's done with the ballpark and the police department, it really shows that it's really hard to look at this on a 1 year basis. And it's also really hard to compare against other cities because you don't know what big projects or what they're tracking. So it's not plug and play. There's not one method and one equation for this. Next, we have a couple of notes. They did plan to implement all of the recommendations from their disparity study in Winston. They're focused on expanding data collection and utilizing a new software to track some of these things better. And also that they were also impacted by the pandemic. So for the this one's the city of Asheville, a little bit more similar in size to the city of High Point. Also not as mature of an MWBE program. I believe this was their first disparity study that we're looking at data. They're in the process of updating it, their 5-year update. So from 2012 to 2017, you see that their total minority percentage was 1.2%. And in 2018, they had a 5% spend. For non-minority female, in their study years, it was 9.7%, but in 2018, it was 3%. And then total MWBE for their study years was 10.9%, but for the 1 year of 2018, it was an 8% spend. So again, they adopted their policy in 2021. They don't currently produce a utilization annual report. They are about to start their update of their disparity study. And then they listed out just a couple of recommendations to us about using the American Contractors Compliance Association when searching for consultants. Obviously, that second bullet point there is pretty obvious. We will be consistent with North Carolina state law. So just a couple of things that kind of mix into this as well is that, there are different vendors that provide disparity studies. So, they're going to be different regardless of, not only city differences, but the different methods that those different consultants may bring to the table are going to impact the end result. And then finally, we included the links in there so if you all wanted to see their full disparity study and an example of annual reports for each of these cities, you can certainly do that. I'll be happy to answer any questions or clarify anything.
Anyone?
Mayor, I don't have any questions, but this is Councilman Jefferson. Just wanted to say thank you, city manager and staff, for the work in putting this together. I know that this has been a topic of conversation for us for some time. And certainly, this information, I think that comes from cities throughout the state, being able to learn about what they're doing and where they are and how they're tracking, and then really where that stands compared to where we are, I think is really, really helpful. So thank you.
I have a question for the attorney, actually. Do you know if the school of government has any information that we could get about what policy changes are allowed in response to a disparity study under North Carolina law?
I am not aware of that. I've been in a lot of communication with other city attorneys that have done these studies.
Mhm.
I have not heard any of them mention that. But I'll be glad to look into it and let council know.
I think that would be some information that would be good for council to have as we anticipate where this may lead us in the future. Should we choose to do it?
I'll get back to you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We next have a closed session for both economic development and attorney-client privilege. So I will need a motion to go into closed session.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second to go into closed session for the two purposes stated. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Okay, we'll close session. If there's no objection, while we're here, I'd like to introduce Lizzie Powers.